Hey guys, it's Steve here, back with part 4 of our forest tutorial series in Blender. So hope you guys have been having fun along the way, and are excited to jump into getting more of the fine details finished in our scene. So in this part, I'll be creating some of the smaller, brushier trees, and little pine trees and stuff to kind of put around and fill out our scene, just so it looks like the trees continue further than the eye can even see. And gives it, obviously, the more sense of a forest when you have more brush around. Okay, so make sure you have your add-ons enabled, the sapling add-on and the images planes add-on like we did in the previous parts. And we're ready to go ahead. So I'm going to jump to layer 3 now and create some small saplings, this time using the sapling add-on and not modeling them by hand. So to do this, I'm just going to go Shift S, cursor to center, and then I can turn off my background image here now. So I'm just going to hit N, and I'm going to turn off background images there. Alright, so Shift A and add in a curve and a tree. I'll hit T to bring up my toolbar, and I got all my settings here. So for these trees, they're going to be low poly and kind of branchy and small and not too thick in diameter. So I'm going to take the radius down just a little bit right off the bat because I don't want them to be too wide. More bushy, less thickness. Okay, so that's fine. I'll take the curve resolution down a little bit here, and then I'll jump over to branch growth. And I can make the length of the branches a little longer here, and then I'll make the base size a little shorter, and I can't do that here though, that has in the splitting options, so I'll do that in a second. First I want to take the curve resolution down a little bit, so I'll take that down 2 steps there, and then I'll go back to branch splitting, and here I can give it one more level. You can see there's a ton of branches though, so I'm going to take the number of branches way down for the 3rd level there, and then the first or second level here can be more like 25 branches. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And then let's make the base size a little bit smaller, so the branches come down a little further, something like that. And then let's give it some segment splits. So take the splits up a little bit. You get something a little bit crazy looking if you go too much, but something like that looks pretty good. And I think the length of our branches might be a little long, but it's looking pretty good. That's not too bad right there. Okay, so that's a pretty nice looking little sapling. Very easy and very quick with the sapling add-on. I can kind of take the taper of these down a little bit if I wanted to. Something like that though I like. And that should do it. So let's quick add some leaves onto these little trees now, just like we did before. For the branches, I'm going to go to leaf settings, show leaves. You can see we want to change it to rectangular leaves. Make the scale to be a little bit thinner on the X, so they're a little bit rectangular that direction. And then just take the scale up a bit more to something like that. And that looks pretty decent. I think that'll be a good size. Maybe just a little large, actually. But it's okay if they're slightly large, because I can scale some of them down a little bit to give it some variation. So that's pretty good. I might just make the amount a little more. And that's not too bad. It might be just a few too little branches. So I could go to my branches here, make it, say, 30 instead of 25. Alright, so that's better, I think. Maybe? Yeah, that should be pretty good. And we're good to go. So before I click off of this now, I want to quick save this preset again, like I did for the branch. So I'm just going to name this small tree and export preset. So it's saved now, and it is right there. Alrighty, great. So I'll save my project, and I can go ahead and grab this little tree and move to the side and add in a second one for a little variation. So I'll go Shift A, add tree, and then grab that preset, small tree. Okay, the leaves aren't on and the levels are set to 2 instead of 3, but that can be quickly turned on now. If I just go to branch splitting, give it another level, and then leaves, show the leaves. Alright, so right now it's pretty much identical to this one. It is identical. So I want to go back to the geometry and give it a random seed. We'll pick a tree that looks a little different here. I kind of like that one. I think I'll go back to that one. A nice little smaller, denser tree. And we've got some variation. Maybe I'll give a little curve to this one. So I'll go to my branch growth, curvature, and let's kind of bend it. Bend it that way a little bit. Let me kind of see. Yeah, just a little bit, not quite so much. Something like that. And we're good to go. Maybe that's a little bit too much still. Take it down just a tad. Alright, cool. So with that done, we got our little trees ready to go. So I'll grab this one as well, move it to the side. And now I want to create more of a little pine tree. Because the pine tree is, we're going to use a different leaf texture for it. And they also kind of grow a little differently. So let me go ahead and go add tree. Except this time I'll use the built-in preset into the sapling add-on. And let me see, which one is it? It might be the oak. Let me grab that real quick. Oak? No, it's not the oak. Maybe the quaking aspen. Yeah. Turn that bevel on. Let me try that one on the black. Oh, I think this is it. The black tupelo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah, that one. We want to use that one. Go turn on bevel. Go to branch growth, or splitting first. We'll go splitting first and turn the levels to 2. And then we gotta take the number of branches down again, like before. So I'll take this down to, say, 30 again. And then the second level down to just like 5. So just a few branches. And maybe make the base thickness a little smaller again. So this in the geometry here, we can just go scale radius scale right there. Just take that down a little bit. Alright, so it's like a 0.8 is about good. And the overall size is a little big too, so we can just take the scale right here down a bit. Okay, so these don't have to be big pine trees. Maybe make the branches just a little bit longer in the branch growth. We can take the length up just a little bit here. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. And let's turn our leaves on. So show leaves, and this time I want to just make them a little bit bigger because the texture I'll be using for the little pine needles are going to be a little bit bigger. So I want it to be something like that. Alright, now let me quick see what the shape of my pine needle branch is. So I'll just go over here, split my window, and open up my UV image editor. This texture now will be in the description again, so you can download it there. But this is just a little pine branch right there. And it's pretty squared. So I can go ahead and make sure that my leaves are pretty squared, which they are. So I think that should look pretty decent. So there we have a little pine tree, all good and ready to go. So I'm only going to make one variation of these. So I'll just go ahead and scale this down a little bit more. And we look pretty good to go. So I'm going to quick throw those textures on that we've already created for the leaves and the bark onto these trees. First I need to convert them to a mesh. So I'll go Alt-C, convert from curve to mesh, right there. And then I'll grab them all, U, Smart UV Project. Alright, do that for both of these. Grab it all, go Alt-C, in Object Mode, convert it. Tab in Edit Mode, grab it all with A, and U, UV Project, Smart UV Project. Cool. So that should do it. Let's just grab our leaves here now, and we have to fit them onto our little leaf texture like we did before. So all we gotta do is grab them all, rotate them, scale them. Looks like they have to be scaled up along the X or Y a little bit there. Scale them all up, and they should fit nicely now. I can go to rendered view and check that. Alright, I can't check it yet because I didn't put the material on it. So in the material tab, we just click on it there with the leaf selected and give it the leaf material. And then we'll go ahead and give this the wood branch material. I think I'll use the wood branch because it's a little bit smaller of a tree, and that should work for this. Alright, so same thing for this. Wood branch material. The leaves, we have to make sure that the UV map is right on them. So we'll go ahead and do that again real quick. Scale on the Y. Place it right over that leaf. Cool. And go ahead and render it. Let's see what that looks like. So you can see this one's looking pretty good. The leaves might be just a little large, but like I said, I can scale a few of them down. And then over here, give those leaves that leaf material. Awesome. So look like some nice little trees there. I'll go ahead and scale these down a little bit by grabbing my face select mode instead of vertice, selecting them all, or not selecting any of them, and then going select random. And then making sure individual origins is on, we can scale them down. You might want to turn off proportional editing too. Alright, that should be good. Maybe just scale them all down a little bit too. Cool. Same thing can be done for these leaves. Just grab them and scale them down a little bit. And then we can select a random amount of them and scale those down a little bit more. So if I go rendered, it looks pretty nice. So now we got this this little pine tree that we want texture here. So The trunk can be the same as everything. We'll just go Alt-C, tab into edit mode, select it all, U, Smart UV Project. Alright, now I'm going to grab that bark material here, but I'm going to click that little button to make it its own. And the reason I want to do that is because I want this to be the wood pine. And I want this to be just a little darker texture, just so that it kind of stands out a little bit more. So switching over to my object materials here, I'll click that. And then I'm going to take my hue saturation node on my texture. I'm just going to take the value down a bit to about a 0.6. So now if you go rendered, you can see that this wood is a bit darker than this wood here. If I turn around here so you can see the sunlight on it, this is a bit brighter, this is a bit darker. And that's just a little variation to add to your different woods. Okay, so that's all I need to really do for that. And now I'll do the leaves. So for the leaves, I want to give it the same leaf material, but again, click that little button to make it its own material. And this is going to be the spruce little branch there. So let's go leaf spruce. And all I have to do is grab that texture. So now that this is its own material, I can just click the button there, and then open up my my little spruce leaf, or whatever you call it, pine needles, I guess. Go ahead, rendered, and you can see you got your needles coming off your tree, and it doesn't look too bad, but maybe the UV maps are off a little bit. I think the UV maps are off a little bit. So to fix that, tab in edit mode, grab all of those, switch your texture to that new one, and you can see, yeah, they're off here a little bit. I need to rotate them, scale them along the Y, and just kind of place them right over there. Like that. So let's see what that looks like now in rendered view. Much better. So it's not too bad looking. You can see that it looks okay for a small little tree in the distance. It'll be fine. So that should do it. I might want to scale it down just a little bit more as well, because this is going to be a smaller pine tree. Alright, that should be fine. Cool. Now, one other thing is you might want to kind of tweak the materials on this leaf spruce, as first of all, they might be a little bright, so you could drop in a hue saturation node like I had on my leaf, or on my my bark here, and just take the value down a little bit. And then also do that for the translucency as well. Alright, cool. So this should be a little darker now. And that might be a little more spruce-like. And then the last thing is the glossiness is going to need to be a little bit different for these pine needles. So to do that, and then kind of give it some variation, I'm going to take my glossy node here and drop in a converter color ramp. Then take the color from my spruce branches, drop it into there, and then the color from my color ramp into the factor. Now if I Control Shift click on this color ramp with my Node Wrangler add-on enabled, I can decide how much glossiness I want on here by increasing the blacks and whites. So the white values will be the amount of glossy, and something like that. Something like that should be pretty good, I think. So now if we check it out, the glossiness looks a little bit better on those pine needles. Cool, and that should do it. So I'll just go solid, and we're good to go. So let's quick combine these different materials with their trunks, basically, the bases. So grab the leaves, grab the trunk, Control J. Same with all these, Control J. And then grab the leaves, grab the trunk. Let me see that there. Okay, Control J. Now we might have to tweak the UV maps because they're set up wrong again, just like we did with the branches. So we go rendered, and maybe not. Maybe they'll be smart enough. Okay, yeah, they're good. We don't have to do it. They're ready to roll. So then I can go ahead and put these all into a group, grab all three of them, not the lamp, and go Control G. They turn green, and then we can hit T to bring up our toolbar here. And let's just name these small trees. Awesome. So let's put these, whoops, that's not how you spell trees. Let's put these trees in our scene. So to do that, it's very easy. We'll just use a weight paint vertex group. So add a new group to your floor. We'll call this one trees, just to kind of organized. And go weight paint and paint in where we want these. So like I said, we mostly want them towards the back where you can't really, where you kind of want to blend the horizon with the sky. So I'm going to put a lot of them back here. Maybe make my brush a little bit smaller with F there. Kind of paint them around the bigger trees as well. You don't want them to be like on top of them. Alright, something like that. Make the higher values being the ones in the back there. Cool. Maybe make a few come in a little closer there. Close it off a little bit. Around there, and then even a few up in here is kind of good. All depends on how you want your forest to look. But I'm thinking that will be, whoops, not right there. Thinking that will be a pretty nice amount. If I go here, I can see maybe a little bit more up here. Just kind of maybe a little bit more dense in this half of the woods there. All right, there we go. Maybe take a few out here. So switch to subtract and take a few out there. All right, that should do it. So go back to object mode and go to our particle settings, and this will be the first of many particle systems on our ground. And we'll go ahead and add a new one in there, call it trees, and change it to hair. Pull this up a little bit here. We'll choose advanced settings right there. Drop down, we can choose a group, choose a small trees group. Then the amount is going to be a little high, so I'll go ahead and tweak that down a bit. Go down to about 400 for now. And then I'll choose rotation. And then you can see they're all rotated wrong. So we need to quick rotate our trees here. So just jump to your third layer where your trees are and rotate them 90 degrees while you're in front view with number pad 1. And then they'll all show up nice and straight. Cool, so let's tell them to use that weight paint group we just created, vertex group. So choose trees in your vertex group there, and they'll follow that perfectly. Alright, so if we go to camera view now, you can see we got quite a few trees showing up back there, and they're looking pretty good. Need to change the size of them a little bit, give them some random size. Give them a bit of random size, maybe just a little bit more size in general. Find something that kind of looks good. Maybe that, a little bit more random size. Okay, that's not too bad. And let me see, change the Brownian motion a little bit, just so they get a little bit more random. And then we can also go to rotation, and we can spin them around here by turning the phase up and then the random up. So all going to have their own random spin rotation. Awesome. So I'll go ahead and save my project, and then I'll turn this to rendered, and we can kind of see how these are laying out. Alright, so you can definitely see that it kind of fills our forest out a little bit better there, and we have a better horizon line looking right now. So it's pretty good. Maybe just a few tweaks to make it a little bit better, but I'm pretty happy with it. We could add a few more, maybe just a little bit more back here. So go to weight paint. Let me quick turn off the view of these so it speeds it up a little bit there. Okay, back to weight paint. Just paint in a, whoops, let's go back to add. Paint in a few more back here. Maybe have them come in a little bit closer too, because they're kind of cool looking. Alright. That should do it. Turn the view back on. They're looking pretty nice. And I can probably increase the number of them a little bit there. Awesome. So that should, maybe I'll make 500 of those. That should do it. Fill out our scene a little bit more, give it some more realism. Maybe actually I can bring them in just slightly closer still, just so you have them a little closer to the camera, like in this area here. Might just be a little bit better. Okay, there we go. So with that done, I can turn off those now, and they'll just render because that box is still set there. Cool. Let me quick see. I think my camera might have moved a little bit. I want to quick turn on my background image just to make sure that I'm still kind of lined up there. Yeah, I'm pretty good. All right. I'm going to turn that back off. And we're making some good progress here. So now it's time to add a little bit more detail to the front of our scene here and work on some leaves and some nature up in front. So to do that, I'll jump to my fourth layer here, and what I'm going to do is add in a bunch of different leaves. I'll show you a nice, quick and easy way to open up a bunch of different textures at once. And you guessed it, it's going to be using the Import Images as Planes add-on. So make sure that's still enabled from the previous parts. If it's not, go ahead and enable it, Images as Planes, in the User Preferences add-ons. And then I'm going to go Shift-A, Images as Planes. And I have a bunch of different leaf textures downloaded here. I'll put some links in the description where you can find them. And go ahead and grab just as many as you want. I'm just going to grab all of them. So holding Shift, I'm just going to left click on them. Have them all selected there. Now before I click Import, I'm going to drop down here in the material settings for cycles. I want to choose a diffuse and transparent. So I'll just speed things up a little bit. And then also you can choose use alpha pre-multiplied right there. Awesome. So import images as planes. And you can see if I go to top view, I have a whole bunch of different textures imported one after another. If I go to rendered view, they already have the alpha cut out and are almost ready to use right off the bat. So really awesome. Quick way to do that. Now, I do need to kind of come up with the custom material for these just to make them a little bit better. So to do that, I'm just going to edit one of them and then share it to all of them. So I'm going to go to my texture on the end here, and I just want to give it a little bit of glossy, and that should pretty much do it. Just a little glossy, maybe a little translucency. So I'm going to grab both these here, pull them to the end, because your transparent node needs to be at the very end of your node tree. And then I'll go ahead and Shift A, add in a mix shader, and add in a glossy shader. Plug the glossy into the bottom, and we should have some glossiness coming through. So right now it's really glossy. Let's turn the amount down, and then let's go ahead and control the amount of that glossy a little bit with the color ramp, like I've done earlier. So just add in a converter color ramp, plug it in from the color there to the factor and to the factor. Then I can kind of tweak the blacks and whites to decide how much I want. And I think something like that looks pretty good. These are the leaves on the ground, so they're gonna be a little bit, you know, maybe not as shiny. Okay, so now let's add in some bump. We go ahead and add a vector bump node. Plug the color into the height, and then the normal into the normal on that glossy and diffuse node here. Alright, so zoom in real quick. You can see it's looking quite a bit better already. A little too strong on the bump, but that's normal. Just turn that down. And it's not looking too bad. Maybe 0.2 on the bump would be a little better. Alright, excellent. So this material is almost good. Just needs to be tweaked a little bit. Basically, you can kind of change the colors, because some of these colors aren't going to match necessarily the right way. So I like to drop in a hue saturation value so I can kind of adjust the hues a little bit on them. There we go, drop that in right there. And then like I said, this one might be a little bit too dead looking. Maybe I want a little bit more red hue to it. So I can crank it any way I want, but I'm going to go slightly to the red here. Maybe 0.47, 0.48. Crank the saturation up just a little bit, and you can see it looks a lot more red. We take the value down a little bit, and we have a very saturated leaf. Maybe a little too much saturation. But I think I'm pretty happy with this node setup now, a basic leaf shader. Make sure your last node here is connected to the surface. So check that, and should be good to go. So now I want to share this material with all of these, but each of them have their own texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the first one, grab all the other ones, and go Control L, make links, materials. So now they all have this material, but they have the wrong texture. So all I have to do to fix that is, you can see right here that it's already named the texture that it's supposed to be because of the way I imported them. So all I have to do is click the little box there to make it its own texture, and then open up that texture 223. It's already open. I just have to tell Blender use the 2231. I'm sorry, you don't want to look at the number here. You want to look at the number down here. So 221. This is the object name here. All right. So 221 right there. Grab this one, hit the button. Down here 207. So this one's going to be 207. And they're pretty much all in a row right here, so you don't have to even think it's going to be 181, 182. There we go, 182. Grab that one, check the box. 197, or 179, I'm sorry. There we go. And you can see it's very quick and easy to get a whole bunch of different materials and different textures all opened and with a nice material. So I'm just going to finish that up. 135 and 135. Last one. 133 and 133. So now they should all have the bump and the glossy, but be their own texture. Awesome. You can see that they all have the glossy and the bump, and then you can come through and tweak each one individually however you you like. Turn the hue down a little bit if it's too red. Like this one maybe has to go a little bit the other direction, 5.2. And just kind of even them all out. Maybe this one's a little too bright. So that's better. And maybe some of them are a little bit glossy as well. So turn the amount of glossiness down with decreasing the amount of white. Excellent. We can see if that works out, and we can go ahead and use those. So the last thing I want to do on these leaves is give them a little bit of detail. So to do that, I'm just going to tab into edit mode and hit W, subdivide. And then I'll switch to vertex select there, vertex select, and I can kind of give them a little bit of a curve. So they're not sitting perfectly flat there. I'll choose smooth shading on all of these, so select them all, go smooth shading. And then yeah, I'm just going to go around, hit W, subdivide once, give them a little bit of a variation here. Pull that down a little bit, pull these up a little bit. So they don't sit perfectly flat. That makes kind of a big difference. If they're sitting perfectly flat or not, you'll be able to tell. So it helps to give them some variation. And it's easy enough. Just hit W, subdivide them. Kind of, maybe I'll rotate this one a little bit. Just give it a little bit of variation. W subdivide. Rotate that around. Pull it up a little bit. Cool. Last one. Pull it up a little bit. Pull it down a little bit. Maybe rotate it around a little bit. Awesome. I didn't do these few over here, so they don't all necessarily need the detail. If most of them have it, you'll probably be good still. But I'll quick go ahead and raise the corner a little bit in some of these, just so they look like they're a little bit more crinkled up or something. Dead leaves. Alright, should be good to go. Go to rendered view, make sure everything looks good, looks pretty decent, and we can go ahead and add all these to a group. So just grab them all, Control G, get a group out of them. Let's name these leaves, and let's place them on our terrain. So to do this, I'm going to create another group. So like I said, it was going to be the first of many groups. This is going to be our second one now. Go into Weight Paint, click the plus, go ahead and name them leaves. And let's give ourselves a little more room to work. And now these leaves are going to be mainly, unlike the trees, they're going to be mainly in front by the camera here, where we want most of the detail to be visible. So I'm going to go ahead and place them kind of sporadically. A few less around the trunk here. Still some of them around there, but just a few less. So just kind of place them around. And now we kind of want them to blend in with our textures. So like along the back here, I'm going to slowly fade them out. So there's like not too many back there, but more around here. And then they kind of just fade out to nothing, to pure blue. We don't have many of them back there. So something like that is pretty good, I think, for the random amount of leaves. And we can kind of check that now by going ahead and adding our leaves to it. We got a few back there. Cool. Let's go ahead and add our leaves. So, new particle system. Click plus. Name these leaves. That's the settings, I'm sorry. Let's name this one here leaves as well. There we go, double click. And these are going to be very similar to our trees, where it's going to be a hair. We want advanced. We want to choose the group to be leaves. Need to check that rotation button again and go ahead and rotate our leaves. So just grab all your leaves there, not that, and rotate them 90 degrees. Alright, that looks about right. I was in front view. and you can see the lay nice and flat. So tell it to use your leaf vertex group for the density, and then let's go ahead and spin them around a little bit with the rotation, turn the phase up, turn the random up. Got them all spun around nicely down there. If we go to rendered, we should see some little leaves showing up real good. There you go. They look a little bit pink. So maybe the hue's off a little bit on some of those, but they're showing up nicely. They might be a little bit too shiny as well, but it's looking like they're placed nicely. So I can go ahead and give them some random size, and then I'm going to add just a whole bunch of them. We'll go ahead and add another 0 to our particles there. And that's looking pretty nice. If I go to rendered view now, it'll be a little slower, but we should see all of our leaves coming together. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I just need to adjust those materials a little bit as they're too shiny right now. So the size of them might be a little bit big as well. So I think I'll take the size down just a little bit there. And then I'll need about twice that many. So I'll go ahead and boom, place a whole bunch more. But I can turn off the particle system for now, just for speed. Jump back to our materials, and let's give these a little bit less of a pink look. And we might have to turn the glossy down a little bit. So turn the glossy down. If you have your white all the way over here already and it's still too shiny, you can go ahead and take the value of white down from 1. So just doing that is going to take your glossy down quite a bit on these textures. So any of them that seem too glossy, go ahead and take the white value down a bit. So let's see here. These are a little bit too pink. I want these to be the other direction. That one there. Make that 5.2. Select that one there. There we go. 5.2. Whoops, not 52. 0.52. That's a little bit better. And any of these that have too much glossy, take it down a bit. Okay, maybe that one's a little bit too much. Maybe that one's a little bit too much. Just kind of checking through all of these. Might be a little bit too shiny. And that one's probably a little too shiny as well. So with those minor adjustments done now, we should, fingers crossed, have a better looking, maybe I go 4.9, better looking leaves. So I'll jump back to layer 1 here and go to camera view. Go ahead and save my project real quick. And let's turn our leaves back on. So grab that floor and then turn the little leaf button on there. And you can see they're looking a bit nicer. Got quite a few of them, and they're not looking too bad. So that's gonna pretty much do it. They're a little bit, they could use maybe a little bit more red to them, so I might tweak that, and then maybe a little too glossy still. And we just need a few more of them as well, because you can still see the ground a little too much through those leaves. But definitely coming together. So let me just go quick change that a little bit. I'm going to tweak the textures a little bit more, but basically just doing what I already showed you guys. Grabbing them, taking the speck down a little bit if they're too shiny. Any of them that are a little too bright there, maybe I'll just dim down a little bit more. Right, and then turn the hue or saturation up a little bit on some of these. Another thing you can do if they're just not red enough for your liking, you can grab them, drop in a color ramp. So just color RGB curves. I'm sorry, not color ramp, RGB curves. Choose the red value there and crank that up a little bit, and you can see you get more red. So a little tip there, if you don't have enough red. But I think that's looking pretty good. Now, you might also want to add a little translucency to these. So to do that, very simple. We've done it on the other leaves already, so I'll quick show you how to do it. But it's very simple. Just drop an add shader, and then a translucent shader right there. Plug it in the bottom. Whoops, there we go. Flip those around, and then grab your final color here as the color and the normal into the normal. So let's see what that's looking like. I think it should be looking pretty good now. I'll go ahead and quick add that translucent to all my leaves. But yeah, I'll quick do that, and then we'll see what that's looking like. Okay, so I went ahead and finished the translucency on those leaves and added a few more, and you can see now that when I render it, let me see, switch right here to rendered view, you can see that it looks a bit nicer. The shadows are just a little less harsh. Hold on, here we go, there we go. Shadows are just a little less harsh, now the light's kind of passing through them. Just kind of blends in with the ground a little bit better, and the speculators a little less. So they're looking pretty nice. I like the way they're looking now. Not bad. So they also blend pretty nicely now with the terrain going back there. You can't really see where the seam is. So everything is looking pretty good with the leaves. So our scene's coming together quite nicely. Part 4 is about done now. I think I'll wrap it up there, and in part 5, I'll go ahead and add in some more nature, using some nature assets, add in that log, and just a little bit more of the fine details. And then in the final part, we can render it and color correct it and add some cool compositing effects. So I hope you guys are having fun, and that'll do it for part 4. So we'll see you later, guys. Bye-bye.